Hey, just a heads up that the following content may be disturbing or triggering for some listeners and is not appropriate for children. Please take care of yourself and others who may be listening with you. Welcome to the Bonus Babies Podcast, a show that has no easy answers, only hard questions.
Growing up, I was born into a male-dominant family, meaning I had a lot of boy cousins, a lot of brothers, a lot of uncles, and a sprinkle of girl cousins here and there, you know what I mean? And so because of that, I grew up playing basketball, football, shooting BB guns, and like just having fun, you know, doing all the stuff that boys do, riding go-karts, riding skateboards, and just I thought I was just like them, you know, like you couldn't tell me I couldn't play with my boy cousins or my god brothers or the kids in my neighborhood, you know. And so as I get older, I'm like, oh, I'm a date man. You know what I mean? I dated men before. I had my fair share of heartbreak with men. And then I was single for a very long time. And then, yeah, I had an experience that really changed like my perspective and how I thought like about life. And so I realized, oh, I think I like girls, you know. And so I like girls, and so I'm also very feminine, you know what I mean, which is why I think dudes like naturally gravitated towards me, because they like, dang, she'll play the game with me, but she also like super girly, you know what I mean. And so I'm very fluid, right? I acknowledge my masculine side, and I also acknowledge my feminine side, and I embrace both.
Can you tell me what you call the kids who you've cared for over the years?
We feel that the children that we receive coming into our home are bonuses. So we call them bonus babies.
I love that. This is your host, Jayne Amelia Larson, and I'm a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate volunteer for youth in foster care. Yeah, I know it's a mouthful. In the same way a CASA works, I explore all things in the foster care maze by talking to kids, parents, caregivers, attorneys, social workers, therapists, really anybody and everybody who will speak to me to keep the conversation open and the information flowing about all things CASA.
Hi, this is Jake Eberly, the producer of the Bonus Babies podcast, and today Jayne speaks with Johna Rivers. They are a youth leader, a CASA board member, a mentor, a co-founder of the Reel to Reel Global Youth Film Festival, and a program manager of Better Youth, Inc. And I get the impression they're not going to stop there. Enjoy the episode.
I'm here with Johna Rivers. Hi, Johna.
Hi, how you doing? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay, you were saying you're going to Vegas?
I am. I'm going to Vegas this weekend to see the Silk Sonic concert. Super excited, super stoked about that. Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars. I can't think of a better collab.
Oh, you're going to have fun, man. You're going to have fun. All right, so tell me about yourself. You're from Watts, right?
I am. I grew up in Watts. I lived there all my life for the most part till I was about 19 years old. Watts taught me a lot, though. Taught me a lot of great life lessons, you know, about just like how to protect myself out here in the world, and, you know, how to see people true colors, you know, easier to see people true colors. It gave me a lot of discernment, you know, about life situations. And so, yeah, I grew up in Watts, lived there till I was 19, and became homeless because my brother was incarcerated for a crime he didn't commit.
Really? So what happened? You became homeless as a kid or what?
As a teenager, I was 19 at this time. I did grow up in foster care, and so at this time I had transitioned into becoming a transition age youth. And so me and my big mama ended up being homeless, and we stayed with her god sister where I slept on the floor. And even when my money stopped coming in from DCFS, my big mama would still pay for me to be there, which was a blessing because most kids get kicked out at the age of 18. And for me, I had support, you know what I mean? I didn't have to leave. I chose to leave because I wanted to see what the world was like. You know, I wanted to take a chance out in the world on my own. I saw a lot of my family stay with my big mama until they was 30 or even older, and nothing good came from it. And so I wanted to try something different.
All right, so we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first tell me about, so how did you end up in foster care? What happened in your family? What happened at home?
So when I was 9 years old, my mom was smoking weed. She always smoked weed. She wasn't a bad parent. I had a hot meal every night, had clothes on my back, went to school every day. You know what I mean? When I was sick, was well taken care of. Like, my mom was a great, attentive present mom, which is like something that a lot of kids in my neighborhood didn't have. But she smoked marijuana, and she was pregnant with my sister, who she named Miracle because she was a miracle baby. Didn't know she was pregnant. She was like in her rib and in her back. And so when she went to the hospital for back pains, they told her she was in labor. When she delivered that baby girl, they found marijuana in her system, and they found marijuana in my little sister's system, and opened a DCFS case, removed us from the home which was supposed to be temporarily, but ended up being long term because they kept giving my mom new hoops to jump through. Oh,
That's
you gotta
right.
do parenting classes. She do parenting classes. Oh, you gotta pass your drug test. She passed the drug test. Oh, you gotta do anger management. She do anger management. Oh, you got, every time she completed one thing, they threw something else at her. And any human sometimes, just become exhausted with the process, and you start to feel defeated. Like, like it ain't no other side. Like there's no winning, and I think that's what happened with my mom. So I ended up in the system until I aged out.
Until you aged out, right?
Yeah.
And you had a tough time in the system. You had a tough time in foster care. Tell me about that.
I did. My first foster home that I went to when I was 9 years old was because my brother wanted to live with his dad's side of the family. We have two different dads. And so I had to go live with him. And when I was there, I forgot to mention this, my brother was removed from the home due to an altercation with his cousin. So his auntie had him removed from the home, leaving me there by myself. And I started to be abused, sexually abused, physically abused, emotionally abused. They would let the dog bite me, and for them it may have been fun and games and a joke, but for me it was traumatizing because to this day I still have post-traumatic stress disorder when it comes to a dog, or at least when a dog shows aggression, shall I say, because I have gotten over the fear of dogs, but when a dog is aggressive, I'm still triggered, and the post-traumatic stress kicks in. And after a year of being there, I remember talking to my mom and my big mama and telling them what happened. And
Okay, who's Big Mama? Who's Big Mama?
My big mama is like my godmom. I was born on her couch. She was my mom godmom also, so she was both for our godmother. And so I was born on her couch, took my first steps in her house. And so she just like always been there, was a protector. And I gave her the name Big Mama because like growing up, I would always call her mom and my mama mom. And they both was like, we not finna both jump up every time you say this. And so I said, I'm going to call you Big Mama and I'm going to call you Mama. And for the rest of my life, I called her Big Mama. And so that's who my Big Mama is. But I told them, and they called the social worker scheduled a court date. I went to court, but I didn't say anything in court, so the judge sent me back home to the house that I was being abused in, but I was nervous about that.
Okay, so you didn't say anything. You didn't say anything because you were scared in court. You weren't able to speak up, right?
Right, because I was there with my foster parent, and one of her kids was there with her, so I wasn't like, I'm not going to say nothing. But the judge saw that it was like that I was still in distress from the look on my face, and so she removed me from that home. Not remove me. She told me to go to the back and talk to my attorney. I went to go talk to my attorney, and my attorney was like, "Oh no, and he told the lady, the clerk told the judge, and the judge was like, "Oh, based off the information I just received, Jayne is going to be removed from this home effective immediately." And she had me go back to the back with my attorney, and my attorney asked who I wanted to live with. I said my big mama, since I've already been born on her couch. She's already been in my life. I felt more comfortable. It's like a second home. I had already been spending a night at her house all my life. And so I went to live with my big mama, where I stayed until I aged out the system.
Right, but you also told me that you're not afraid of confronting things. So you actually eventually did speak up in court, right?
Yeah, I did. That's how I got removed.
Right. So do you remember what you said?
I don't. I just remember talking to my attorney, and my attorney going back into the into the courtroom, and then me being removed that day. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I definitely spoke about what was happening.
How did you feel about all that? How did you feel about the way you were treated? Because you were actually severely neglected, right? You were
in foster care, not in my home.
In foster care,
In foster
right.
care, I was severely neglected.
Right, not with Big Mama, and
my
not
mom.
not with your mom, but in
Right.
foster care. You were abused. You were starved. You were neglected. You were terrorized by dogs.
Right.
They thought it was funny.
Right.
And you were, and all this time, you're just a little girl.
Right.
Or a little person, right?
Right. And so,
Yeah.
I don't think I really, at 9 years old, you're not really processing that. You're not really understanding of your emotions and the things you're going through. Well, 10 at that time, because I turned 10 there, left before my 11th birthday. And so, At 10 years old, you don't really understand how to process your emotions or really comprehend what's happening. It wasn't until I became an adult and like did some traveling and did some healing that I was able to identify some of the emotions that I was feeling and how they played a role in some of the decisions that I made in my teenage years, like fighting in school, not graduating middle school, but graduating high school. Didn't graduate middle school, didn't graduate elementary, but I graduated high school. But it was because I was fighting, didn't really care about my grades, and it wasn't until my mentor, Sydney Stewart, came in my life and was like, I got an opportunity for you to go to Atlanta. I was like, Atlanta? I want to go to Atlanta, you know what I mean? And when I went to Atlanta to hang out with a whole bunch of different kids and Usher himself, that's when I started to like change my life for the better. But when I got older and did the healing and did the work, I looked back and I realized like, oh, that's why I was fighting. And that's why, because I was angry and I was mad and hurt from what I had just been through. And yeah, I was removed from the home and I was placed in the home with my big mama, but I was still like going through I was still hurt. And besides, I didn't speak up about the sexual abuse until I was about 14. So I had never spoke about that. So that was still going on in my head. And so it was just like a lot of different things that I was dealing with that I wasn't aware of because I didn't have the knowledge or the tools to be able to identify what I was going through or what I was feeling at the time. And so, and even in therapy, like mandated therapy, like you ain't talking to these people because most of the time you talk to these people and your situation end up worse. And so you're not really going to open up to these
Okay,
therapists
tell
at
me
the
about
core.
that because I've heard that before, right? So
Well, that's never happened to me personally, but I'm
okay.
like from people that I like, know who was never even in foster care, but like, had to go to therapy for something else and was like, oh, this is why I'm doing this. And then they ended up like in a situation worse than what that was. And next thing you know, they in juvenile hall as a teenager and just like, it was just a down spiral, sometimes speaking up. And so I did this thing called the Landmark Forum where they taught us about how to heal our inner child. And that's where I was like really able to like look back and be like, wow, that really messed me up. But thank God that I'm here now and making the choice to heal, right? Because I think healing is a choice. It's not nothing that can be forced. So even if a judge forced me to go to therapy, I'm not gonna heal if that's not what I want to do. You know what I mean? And so when I made the decision to like, I want to understand my life. I want to understand how what I've been through affect me now today. I want to understand how it affects my attitude. I want to understand how it affects my perspective and like really made the conscious choice to want to better myself and be better than the things that I've seen and experienced in my life is when I was able to unlock the level of awareness needed to identify how I felt during that time. Because I think like at 9 years old, it's like you don't know how you feel at 9, Like you don't know how you feel at
Yeah.
13 sometimes, you know what I
No,
mean?
yeah, I don't
13
even
years
know how
old.
I feel now sometimes,
Right.
I'm
So,
like confused,
so yeah.
But you're really describing this so well that it sounds like well, it doesn't sound like it's true. You've just worked really hard to heal yourself. And as you say, it's a choice that you've made because you could have gone the other way, right?
Correct.
You could, yeah, you could have a super unhappy life right now, but instead you're doing all kinds of things that you love, that you want.
Correct.
You've been all over the world, right? You've traveled all over.
Yes,
Can you
I've
tell me
been.
about that? How
So
did that work out?
so I've been to Africa, I've been to Brazil, and I did this documentary when I was about 18, 19 maybe. And my mentor was like, Will, we should do a video for you for this competition and let's just see if it can get in. Although I didn't win the competition, I won so much more. I got the support of my community. I got the support of strangers. I got the support of people I've never even met before. And at the time I was battling health issues and I was homeless, you know what I mean, at the time, battling health issues, but I never let any of that stop me. You know what I mean? I felt like I survived all the stuff that I survived in foster care. So homelessness and health issues, ain't gonna stop me. But unfortunately, it did. I ended up in the hospital on the day that I was supposed to show that documentary to a group of people in the community that was doing work for young people. And the guy that offered me the opportunity was like, you know what? Because I like this video and it inspired me so much, I want to show it on your behalf if that's okay for you with you. And I said, yeah, I'm okay with that, sure. And I remember him texting me like, hey, good news. Like, I showed the video. Everybody loved it. This lady Akuyo, she wants you to write a letter so you can go to Africa. And I was like, Africa? He was like, yeah, all you got to do is submit a letter. I was like, okay. I wrote a letter. I mean, I wrote the best letter I can write. I was like, I've never been outside the country. I want to see what this is about. If I can get in, like, so be it, and so I wrote it. I said yes. And here's to my big mama who never said no and always said yes. And that's kids in me to always say yes. I said yes. And I wrote that letter. And next thing you know, I got an email from Akuyo. And she said, hey, Jayne, this is one of the best letters I've ever read. And I just want to let you know that you are one of the people I'm going to take to Africa with me. And I would really love to meet you. You know what I mean? Give me a call at this number. She gave me her number. I called her, talked to her, went to the meeting. Mind you, I didn't have a car. I didn't have nothing. I caught a bus, couple of buses, trains, whatever I had to do to get there, I was going to get there. Not having a car wasn't an excuse. Not having a ride was not an excuse. Even if I had to walk a couple of blocks from the bus stop, like I was going to get there. And so I showed up homeless, mind you, sleeping on the couch. Just got through fighting some health issues, and here I am saying yes to a trip to Africa. And when I showed up, I was like, I don't got money for a passport. I don't have money for shots. I don't have money for any of this. And the group that I went to, like, really supported me and uplifted me and really made sure that it was possible for me to be able to have that experience. And to this day, they're some of the most magnificent people I've met. One thing I've learned that Akuyo said to me, right, is that at the end of the day, we're all human, and humans are flawed. You know what I mean? And when I think about that, all of my mentors are magnificent, and they're flaws and all. And so I still know those people to this day. But that trip changed my life. I really got to experience gratitude in a different way. I came home and I called my mom and I was like, thank you. She's like, for what? I was like, for the sugar, for the toilet paper, for the water. It's the things that we don't think about, you know what I mean? And you move into your first apartment and you're like, oh, let me make some tea. Oh, shit, I got to go to the store and buy sugar, because we don't realize how much our parents, how much they do for us, you know what I mean? Because we so caught up in our own world, and sometimes it takes traveling and saying how unfortunate other people are, but live as if they're fortunate. Live as if they got more than they, like, which they do. They have everything they need, right? But in America, we don't even have that mentality, and we have an abundance, free education, all these things. And so, yeah, it really changed my mind. It shifted my paradigm. And so, I went from pain to power. I turned my pain into power and owned my story before somebody else got a chance to tell my story. I spoke up and started telling my own story.
So what makes you like that? How are you like that?
I think I was watching the last episode of Euphoria, right? And what I loved is how Lexi wrote this play, because
I love
she
that show.
lived and she really lived like a fly on the wall, right? And I think, like, most of my life, I've always lived like a fly on the wall. And so because of that, it allows me to be able to put myself in other shoes in a way. It allows me to be receptive to wisdom in a way that some aren't, because I ain't got no kids, but I seen my sister have her first baby and her baby daddy ghost her and not want nothing to do with him, and have more kids and be in those kids' lives. Yeah, I didn't, I wasn't married, but I saw my big woman be married and her husband cheat on her all the time, and see her cry and break down and take him back because she loved him. And yeah, I seen my cousin go to jail, and I saw one of my cousins get chased by the police. Like, I've seen a lot. You know what I mean? And I seen the emotions that those people experience. And a lot of the times God placed me in a room to see people in their most vulnerable state. And so when I got into the world and I got out here and started getting opportunities, it allowed me to look at people as like human, and not really be too judgmental, and have an open heart, because who am I to judge you? I don't really understand the depths of what it is, but I put myself in their shoes and know I ain't going through it personally, but I'm imagining what it is if I was to go through it. And I can't judge you. I can't judge, but what I can do is just like try to share some of the wisdom that I know and some words of encouragement, because I have been through some things in life. You know what I mean? I've had friends cross me and burn me and hurt me. I help people who act like I've never done a thing for them. I've experienced some things in life too that had to teach me some lessons. But I've also seen a lot in life, and because of that, when you experience a lot and you see a lot, you get this wealth of wisdom and you just become a different person. And I think a lot of the key thing that's different between me and a lot of foster youth I've met is that I had a mother's love. I wasn't neglected by my mother. I had a mother's love until I was 9 years old, so I know what a mother's love was like, which is how I was able to so quickly identify that I'm not being treated right here. I know what it's like to be treated right, and this ain't it. You know what I mean? And so I think like a mother's love and perspective, experience, all of it plays a role into how I'm able to be who I am.
Yeah. You're a really special lady. You're a special person. And I want to ask you about that. So you are a they, right? Can you talk to me? Because it's like, it's just bad habit because I'm calling you a girl and a lady, and I know you're more than that, right? So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so growing up, I was born into a male dominant family. Meaning I had a lot of boy cousins, a lot of brothers, a lot of uncles, and a sprinkle of girl cousins here and there, you know what I mean? And so because of that, I grew up playing basketball, football, shooting BB guns, and like just having fun, doing all the stuff that boys do, riding go-karts and riding skateboards, and just I thought I was just like them, like you couldn't tell me I couldn't play with my boy cousins or my god brothers or the kids in my neighborhood, and so like all of it. But yeah, growing up in my neighborhood, growing up in a male dominant family, I knew like, okay, I got this masculine energy because I was born into a masculine family, right? And then as I get older, I'm like, oh, I'm a date man, you know what I mean? I dated men before. I had my fair share of heartbreak with men, and then I was single for a very long time, and then I had an experience with somebody, and I don't talk about that too much, but yeah, I had an experience that really changed like my perspective and how I thought like about life. And so I realized, oh, I think I like girls, and so I like girls, and so I'm also very feminine, you know what I mean? And so, which is why I think dudes like naturally gravitated towards me, because they like, dang, she'll play the game with me, but she also like super girly, you know what I mean? And so I'm very fluid, right? I acknowledge my masculine side, and I also acknowledge my feminine side, and I embrace both. I'm not competing with the other. Like, I'm not like, oh, I can't be feminine because I'm supposed to be masculine. And I'm not like, oh, I can't be masculine because I'm supposed to be feminine. I'm like, no, I'm going to take the trash out, and I'm going to go get my eyebrows done, and I'm also going to get an edge up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to make sure that I do my face mask. I'm going to go make sure that, that I make sure that I'm good. At the same time, I'm gonna go play basketball, and I'm gonna listen to, my music, and I'm gonna, like, I'm gonna drive fast when I drive, and that's just how I drive, and you know what I mean? Like, that's just who I am, and I'm not about to hide it. I'm not going to change it for anybody, and I'm not about to try to fit myself into what society think people are supposed to be. I think if more people embrace, like, I think every human being on this earth have masculine and feminine energy, but most people choose to hide or run from the other energy because society has told us we're not supposed to have both energies living in our body. But me, I'm fluid, and I'm gonna embrace it all. I'm gonna embrace both sides of me, and if either you're gonna accept it and you're gonna rock with me, or you're not, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, a lot of times people be like, I'm trying to figure you out. You're such a mystery. And I'm like, oh, it's because it's because I'm very masculine and feminine. So I'm very hard to read sometimes because you don't know what you're going to get. Like, but, I don't like bugs. I scream like, ah, when I see a bug. You know what I mean?
Me too.
But let
I don't
somebody
like
try
spiders.
to attack my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, yo, what's up? I'll knock you out. You know what I mean? So then the masculine side come, but don't let me see a bug, because then that feminine side go come out. And so that's what I mean. When I say they, them, it's because that's who I am. You know what I mean? I'm
because
not
you
her.
got it all going
I'm
on,
not
right?
him.
Yeah.
And I have people be disrespectful and try to make jokes like, oh, you a stud, or you a boy. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm a girl. I know I'm a girl. Trust me, I'm cramping right now. Not right now, literally, but like it was times where I was cramping, and I'm like, oh no, I know I'm a girl. I don't want to be a man. I'm not trying to compete with a man, which is why women that I've dated that were like single mothers and decided to, I'm like, look, if you want to be with a man, go ahead. I'm not even gonna compete, because I don't have what a man have. I'm not going to try to be what a man is. I'm going to be me. I am a female. I am a woman at the end of the day. You know what I mean? I know who I am. I'm also very masculine, and I know that too. And I'm going to embrace it all.
Right. So tell me, how did you end up as a CASA board member? How did that come about?
So
'Cause that's amazing.
I went. I know. I just be all over the place, right? Not like that. Like I travel a lot, and so I was in Brazil on a trip doing advocacy work with comrades from all over the world, and it was a lady there named Jody, and she overheard me talking how I'm talking now, just so authentically about my story. No intentions behind it, just genuinely sharing my story about like how my story impacted me, and how I don't let it define me, and how I was currently still homeless at the time while I was in Brazil, but I don't let that define me. I still say yes to this trip, and just showing like just being me, right? And she was like, "Oh my God, I couldn't help but over here. I have an organization called A26LA. I would really want you to sit down and meet with my board chair." So I went to go meet with her board chair down here in LA on the roof of Line Hotel in Worcester district. And so went and met with him, and he was like, "Oh my God, like, wow, you are amazing." He said, "I'm the board chair for CASA of Los Angeles. Also, I would love for you to meet them." And I was like, "Yeah." But at the time, I was trying to get back in school, and he was also helping me with that. So I kind of swept the CASA thing under the rug and just focused on school. And so years later, I went to this place called Right Way Foundation with Franco Vega, the most down-to-earth guy, ain't never changed on me, and I've known him for about 8 years now. But went down there to his office, and he was like, "Hey, I'm going to this gala volunteer luncheon, and I want you to come with me. You want to talk?" And I was like, "Sure, I don't care. Yeah, I'll talk." I didn't know what I was talking about.
Well, you can
I didn't
talk,
know, you know what I mean? And so I was like, "All right, fine, take me. I'll talk," right? And so he was like, "Okay." And then like 5 minutes as we pulling up into the court where the CASA thing is, or where the event was, he was like, "Okay, so yeah, this is what CASA is about. They're volunteers. They help foster you do this. Woo, woo, woo. Did you ever have a CASA?" I was like, "No." He was like, "What? You never had a CASA?" I was like, "No." And when I got up there, he was like, "Yeah, just talk about this." And so I'm gonna tell you what they do. And when I got up there, I'm like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I was like, "Look, I've never had a CASA, but I heard about what y'all do. And to me, you guys are like the flowers and the cracks of the system that a lot of our youth slip through, because a lot of us are slipping through the cracks. But I feel like if a kid had a CASA, or every kid had a CASA, that crack would be filled with flowers, because you guys are like flowers in the cracks that we're falling through. And you, like, every now and then a flower come and catch that kid and be like, you ain't gonna slip through. What you need? You need these services. You need this. Okay, let me help you out. Let me recommend. You don't want to be in foster care. You want to be reunited with your mom. Okay, let me make sure I recommend that. You know what I mean? And so having a CASA just was different. And I said that just from like the 5 minutes of my mentor explained to me what it was. I came up with like a whole speech off the top of the head, spoke from the heart, nothing written down. But guess who happened to be there?
Who?
The board chair of A26LA that I met with on the roof of Line Hotel. And so he was like, wow. I mean, he saw me, he met me before. He heard about how I'm a speaker and the things I do, but he never seen me in person. And he was like, "Oh my God." He was like, "Would you like to come to the CASA Gala with me?" And I was like, "Sure." He was like, "I'm going to get a ticket for you and your mentor." So me and Franco ended up going to the CASA Gala. When we got there, I sat down and he said, "Hey, I was thinking, how would you like to be a board member? At least this is what I heard," right? I said, "Sure, okay." He was like, "All right, I'm gonna send you the information for the next meeting." I go to the meeting, and so I walk in like I'm a board member, because I thought he asked me to be a board member. So I'm coming in, I'm like, "No, I don't think that's a good idea. This is how this should work. This is just not a good," and I'm talking like I'm one of them, and they like, "Oh, okay." And that's when it dawned on me, like, oh, he asked if I wanted to come to the board meeting, not be a board member, right? And so, but because I showed up like I was a member, they was like, "We like her. We want her to be on the board." And so they was like, could you come to the next meeting? I went to the next meeting. They was like, "We're going to vote on Johna Rivers being on the board." And they voted, and I ended up being the youngest person and the first foster youth that was acknowledged it on the board. It was another foster youth on the board, but he never talked about it until I became a board member and was so open about speaking on my story and not being ashamed of being a foster youth. And it made him like, "I grew up in foster care too, and I never talk about it." And I was like, wow, you never know who you're impacting or who you're inspiring, And so I ended up on a board, and I've been on the board this is my last year this year. And so it was my Lou, the guy, his name's Lou. He ended up paying for me to be on the board for 3 years. And that's how I ended up becoming a board member for CASA of Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's so important. It's so important that you are. Let me ask you about something that you just said. You said that a lot of people are ashamed to be called foster kids or foster youth, or they feel shame about that. Why do you think that is?
Because of the stigma. the stigma around foster youth and around foster care, people just automatically assume that you're going to be a problem or come with all these issues. And so a lot of times, a lot of foster youth spend their whole life trying to prove that they are not that. You know what I mean? I'm still doing that now. Every performance, it's proven like I'm not what the world think I am, and I'm gonna prove to you that I'm not that. I'm gonna prove to you that I'm more than my story. I'm gonna prove to you that I'm more than my trauma. I'm gonna prove to you that I'm more than what the system said I was going to be. And so a lot of times we end up, trying to prove that we're not that. You know what I mean? And so in
Right.
that, so a lot of times, a lot of people become ashamed of saying that they're foster youth. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, a lot of people miss out on opportunities, and you never know who life you gonna change when you let somebody know, like, you know what, I grew up in foster care. You know what I mean? A lot of times people look at people and think, oh, they think they got it all together. Do you know that my mama did this and I was in foster care and I ended up being abused worse when I got in foster care, to the point where I felt like I would have been better off with my mom, who wasn't a good fit either, you know what I mean? And so a lot of the times, like, when you speak up, you never know who you're going to inspire or who you're going to, motivate, or who need to hear what you need to say, because everybody's story is important.
Right. So tell me about the Reel to Reel Global Youth Film Festival. You're the founder, the co-founder, right?
Yes, I am
How'd that come about?
I am the co-founder for Real to Real Global Youth Film Festival. And this came about because, talking about experience and being able to watch things and how it shaped who I am, I was at the film school and I was trying to get my short film picked up that I wrote about 12 years ago now. And I got somebody to do it. They was like, yeah, we'll do it for you. And right when we got down to like the dates of filming, they hit us with a thing. The student hit us with a contract like, oh, in order for me to help y'all with this and for me to do it as my project, y'all got to give me complete ownership of y'all script and of the film until I graduate. I was like, no, I'm not feeling that. That don't sit right with me. I'm okay. And walked away from the whole thing. And I would have rather not have my movie filmed than to have my rights taken away for something that could potentially go places, right? And so I walked away, and a few years later, my mentor applied for a grant for the National Endowment of the Arts, Sid Stewart, and she got it. And she was like, I was in Brazil on my way to the airport to come back home to America, and I got a text like, we just got $10,000 from the NEA. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going back home. You know what I mean? I'm homeless, but I just got $10,000 to do a film festival. You know what I mean? So we got back, and we had already been talking to Bill Duke about it. And so we reached out like, Bill Duke, we just got $10,000 to this thing. We want to know if you'll be our special guest. He said yes. And we was like, okay, we need to figure out how to get more money. We went and met with City National Bank, who do not fund starter projects. And we went and sat down with them. Mind you, I was still a homeless kid at the time. Went and sat down with City National Bank. They gave us $5,000 for a financial literacy panel, and sent one of their people to be on a panel with us so that they could talk about like how to, just financial literacy and stuff like that, which is one of the number one entertainment banking companies in the industry,
It's
right?
huge.
And so
Yeah,
we
it's
ended up getting
huge. Yeah.
$5,000 from them, and I was like, "Wow, we doing this!" And 8 years later, we still going strong. And every summer, we partner with the City of Los Angeles Workforce Center to hire at least 15 to 20 foster youth in partnership with Skydance, Adobe, and AT&T, train them in filmmaking and media, digital content, animation, and gaming, and then showcase their work at the film festival on our platform, while also giving them hands-on experience to put on their resume so that they can get jobs in the industry. 4 of our youth have been hired. One had got hired at Amazon. Another one of our kids got hired at Disney. Another one was working at Lionsgate Entertainment as an editor apprentice. And so it's just beautiful to be able to be like, you know what? Because it was hard for me to get in Hollywood and people will try to mess you over, I want to create a platform. This is me and my mentor said, let's create a platform where young people who can't get into the industry through nepotism can come to come here and be like, learn the skills that they need and get into the industry, because they have the skills that it takes to get the jobs that these same people who get in because of nepotism get. You know what I mean? And so we did that. And so Real to Real became the uncle or the cousin or the friend or the sorority brother that other people have, that other people parents have to get them in the industry for kids that come from neighborhoods like mine in Watts, or neighborhoods in Compton, or neighborhoods in the central of central South Los Angeles, you know what I mean? Wherever they came from, they now have a space where they can come and create and be heard, whether it's through film or music. We want to be able to make sure that young people know that they have a voice, they have a platform, and that platform's all over the world. We had winners from Indonesia. We had winners from Australia. We had winners from Malaysia, all over the world, America, San Jose. And so it's a beautiful thing to know that, I'm not only changing lives here, I'm changing lives all over the world while also trying to thrive in my life, and changing my life and be
Yeah, you're really
successful.
making an impact. You really are. And so tell me about what kind of work you do now.
I currently work at Jimmy Kimmel Live, late
Yeah.
night TV show as a production
Mm-hmm.
assistant, and I'm also a performing artist. I'm a board member for CASA of Los Angeles, but yeah, I'm a performing artist. I'm really working hard on pushing my music out this year. I've been doing music for years, but never really felt like I had the right team. I want people who I know gonna win with me and not try to take advantage of me because I'm winning. And so now that I met those right people, I'm ready to really put my best foot forward and start releasing music and start releasing videos and start releasing content, because people waiting. They are, every time I talk to somebody, like, this person asks about you, they say, what you doing? They waiting for you to release content. They waiting for you. They following you. They watching you. And so now it's about, believing in myself like I tell everybody else to do, and putting it out there because I know that I have a message.
So what do you dream of then? You're going to be like a huge performing artist? You're going to travel the world rapping and singing and dancing?
Yeah, and creating opportunities as I go. You know what I mean? Putting people on, like, that's always been my thing, pulling people up with me and not stepping on them to get up. You know what I mean? It's like I'm that person that's going up the stairs, climbing up that mountain, and I see somebody as I'm going, I'm like, oh, you out of water here, man? You can have some of my water. Come on, let's go up here together. You know what I mean? Oh, look at that. We both came up on the well. Now we can go refill both of our waters. Now we both got some water. Okay, come on, let's finish hiking on up this mountain. Even if you get a little bit ahead of me, you know what I mean? I'm okay because I know I'm going to make it to the top, even if I go a little slower, because I'm focused, because I'm the type of person that's going to help people out. And you may not be that person. And I still don't regret giving you some of my water because you're still able to get to where you need to go. You know what I mean? And so that's just me. That's just like who I am. And so just like being the star, I think now I'm focused on being a star, being the best actress I can be, the best music person I can be, and the best producer I can be. The best artist I can be, and the best producer I can be, while changing the world through my film festival.
I wish you could bottle a little bit of what you got and sell it. Like, I would buy it. I would really buy it. I would totally buy it. I'm going to ask you a question I ask all my guests, and I want you to dig deep, if you will. What is the one thing that no one would know about you unless you told them?
I'm not as strong as I portray to be. And I say that as far as like in these interviews, I talk about all this strength and all this courage that it took to get to where I'm at. But every day, like, I still have my everyday battles that I face. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm trying to focus on thriving and not surviving and getting out of that survival mentality. And for me, those are the times that can hit me the most. Not having financial freedom or the financial stability that I want. You know what I mean? And figuring out, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get this bill paid? How am I going to be able to show up? And I just lost a friend in my neighborhood, but I still got to go to work, and I'm not as strong as people think. I have those moments where I just need to break down and cry. You know what I mean? And that's okay. It's okay to break down, and it's okay to cry, and it's okay to not be okay. And I think that that's the one thing that people would not know about me unless they knew me, and that was that.
Yeah, I would never have guessed that, because you seem like just a powerhouse.
And so it's that I'm vulnerable. I'm very vulnerable and I'm very fragile. And because of that, I have to be strong. You know what I mean? When I'm out in the world, but when I'm home, I don't have to be. When I'm home, I get to be that
Right.
vulnerable, fragile person that I am.
Mm-hmm. Are you in love right now?
I am.
You are?
I am. And
Wow. Excellent.
the relationship I am in is very different from relationships that I've been in before.
How so? How so? Is it
It
better?
is 100% better. And this person really helped me focus on my future and not my past. And when I say that, I mean like not necessarily that my past isn't important, right? Because my past taught me um, a lot of things that help me today, like strength, courage, resilience, and things like that. But now that I know those things, you know what I mean? I don't have to always be resilient. I don't always have to be courageous. I don't always have to be strong, you know what I mean? And I can be okay with planning the future. You know, and I don't have to be so caught up in living for just today, you know what I mean? Or just living in survival mode all the time, you know what I mean? She always say, "We here for a good time, baby, not a long time." And so just reminded me to have a good time. You know what I mean? Go for your dreams. Make that music. Put it out. You know what I mean? And so just having somebody like that that's have her, you know, we all go through things in life. And yes, she's been through her things, but she also have a way more positive outlook on life. And it helped keep me aligned, you know, and in check.
I'm happy for you that you found that. I can see that in your face.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
Yeah, yeah, it's really great. Is there anything else you wanna share with me?
I did. I know. When we met up, you was mentioning like maybe if I would like to share. Hold on one second. Okay, if I would like to share one of my pieces, and saying that this is a podcast to talk about you know, to uplift and inspire foster youth. I did want to do a song, a verse that I wrote for foster youth. And
I'm so excited.
It's a song that I wrote for a sense of home. If you're in Los Angeles and you're moving in your apartment, make sure you check out a sense of home.org. They will furnish your apartment when you move in. I mean, everything. You don't have to worry about anything. Just make sure you sign up and let them know whenever you get in your apartment. But I wrote a piece for them, for foster youth, so that when I perform for them when they're doing the home. And one of the verses that I wrote, I want to share. So I'll say it right now. I say, look, this is for the foster youth. I know what you're going through when you feel like there is no one supporting you. So we figure it out on our own. That's what we got to do. But sometimes it feel good to hear I'm proud of you. So I'm proud of you. And forget whoever doubted you. With all the odds against us, we still found the way to make it through. Shout out to the people who never left our side and the ones who showed us good when the devil was in disguise. See, I reached out my hand. There was people there waiting with love, good energy, understanding, and patience. Congratulations, you made it. This right here is for you. Because you didn't give up, the kids will look up to you. Because you showed up for yourself, people will show up for you. And when times get hard, I hope that this gets you through. Hold on and be strong. Just hold on and be strong. Listen.
Nice. Hold on and be strong. Wow. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Johna, for sharing your story with us and for all that you do. I think the biggest message I got from this was that you can choose to make a difference for yourself. It's an incredibly powerful thing to decide for yourself that things are going to be different. I really don't think we can hear that enough. So thank you. So next week's guest, we have Kenesha Allison, who, along with her 4 siblings, was placed in kinship care with her grandmother after she was removed from her mom's home, who unfortunately had a substance abuse problem. But now, as a single mom, Kenesha has decided to take in her nephew, who was removed from his home. But she says she's blessed to do it, and that he's helping her as much as she's helping him. So join us next week for Kenesha Allison. If you see something, say something. If you suspect a child's health or safety is jeopardized in any way by parents or anyone else, contact the Child Protective Services Agency in your county. 24-hour hotlines are staffed by trained social workers who will help you through the process, and you can do so anonymously. In California, you can call the Child Protection Hotline at 800-540-4000. So if you see something, say something. You might be saving a child's life. If you want to know more about becoming a CASA anywhere in the country, go to nationalcasagal.org. And in LA, casala.org. And if you want to know more about becoming a foster parent, check out the National Foster Parent Association at nfponline.org. There's also faithfosterfamilies.org and adoptuskids.org. There's tons of other information online as well, so you can just hunt around. We also want to thank the supremely talented Christina Apostolopoulos for her beautiful original music. You can find her music on Spotify or Instagram at Christina Aposta. And also thank you to Yukon Har for his engineering. Thanks for listening, and if you like what you hear and you find it as valuable as we do, please rate us and hit subscribe. You can also make a donation at bonusbabies.org. See you next time.